I'll normally have like a bowl of Lucky Charms before I train, a big coffee. That's the start of most of my days, to be honest. And then before bed, I'll probably have some protein and some Pop-Tarts. To keep a lean physique all year round, you need to find a diet that's sustainable and that's enjoyable. If you can make your diet so fun, it doesn't feel like a diet, you're gonna get long-term results. Because if you wake up every day, you're like, oh, got to eat chicken and broccoli again today. Eventually you're gonna get tired of it, you're gonna get bored of it, and then you're gonna fall off the wagon. You're gonna end up binge eating and then start back at square one. Whereas if you could get up every single day, you love your food, it doesn't feel like a chore. Day after day, you're gonna get results. Week after week, you're gonna get results. And before you know it, you're gonna look back, you're 6 months down the line, it's not felt like you've put any hard work into the diet, but you've got 6 months of results. Ketogenic diet for me just isn't sustainable. I like to eat. Like most people in the world, they like to eat, and they like to eat normal foods. I like to eat carbs, I like to eat sugars, and they're not bad for you. So I just don't understand the point of cutting them out. So trying to follow a ketogenic diet when you eliminate all these foods, it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable for me, and it's not sustainable for most people. You just don't need to cut all these foods out. You're not gonna be able to carry on the rest of your life with all those foods being eliminated. If anything, I personally found a ketogenic diet give me a bad relationship with food, because it just turns any food that's not ketogenic into a bad food, and I'm really not a believer of bad foods. It sort of gives people an unhealthy relationship with food, and it just turns people into a negative mindset, and then that can trigger binge eating. I've IF'd, I've done ketogenic diet, I've definitely not done Slim and World of Herbalife, but I've tried like low carb diets, I've tried paleo diets, I've tried most of the diets. It's just, there's a reason why you've tried it and then gone on to different things, because they're just not sustainable. All diets like Keto, Paleo, Herbalife, Slim and World, IF, all these diets work. They're all brilliant, but they only work because you're in a calorie deficit, which is good. Like, they work, but the issue of these diets are people fall off the wagon. They're not sustainable. You cannot sustain the rest of your life living a keto diet. You cannot sustain the rest of your life living Slim and World. And this is why they have a good success rate, but then they have an even worse recuperation rate. They all fall off the wagon. They end up putting more weight on than they started with. So this is why I'm a big factor of sustainable living, whereas you don't need to be on a keto diet, you don't need to follow Slim and World to lose weight. It's just understanding how much you can eat and how much you can't eat, and making that fit your lifestyle. And that way you're going to be able to do this for the rest of your life, because there's no restrictions. Following a ketogenic diet is so restrictive. You've eliminated 1/3 of all the food in the world. That might sound crazy to some, it might not sound crazy, but if you actually try and do that, that's crazy. Like, restricting 1/3 of all your food for the rest of your life, that's just not sustainable. What I try to preach is there's no such thing as a good or a bad food. It's just knowing how much you can eat of something. There's no difference between eating 100 calories of a brownie or 100 calories of Brazil nuts. That's the same 100 calories. IF is a great tool, but that's all it is a tool. It's no different to any other way of dieting, because it's not magic. It's simply just putting your calories into a smaller time window. So if you manage to put all your calories into a smaller time window, you're gonna feel a lot more fed up. You're gonna feel a lot more happier, because it feels like you're almost eating double. Because instead of spreading, say, 2,000 calories throughout the day, you put 2,000 calories into a small time window. So it actually feels like you're probably eating a lot more than you would be. And if you can do that every single day, it's not gonna feel like such a struggle in your mind or your body. But that's the only reason why it works any better than anything else. It's just a tool. It's not magic. It's just actually putting your calories into a smaller time window. So it's gonna actually make you feel a lot happier. I don't actually IF, but I try and use some of the principles and take that into my life. So I don't stick to the certain time frames that people do in the IF, but I try to prolong my first meal. So I don't eat till, say, 11 o'clock. So that's already eliminated, say, if I'm up at 7, that's already put my first meal back 4 or 5 hours. So and I can put all my meals into a smaller time window. But my sort of typical day's diet would be my first meal, 11 or 12, I'll probably have chicken, veg, maybe some carbs. My favorite thing is wraps. I love wraps. But people are like, oh my God, you're eating bread. It's like, yeah, I eat bread every day. It's fine. At the end of the day, there's no difference between 200 calories of wraps or 200 calories of basmati rice. There's no difference. I just like the taste of wraps. So I have 2 chicken and wraps at 12. I do something similar at 1. And then I normally train about 4 o'clock. So I'll normally have like a bowl of Lucky Charms before I train, a big coffee, and then, yeah, that's the start of most of my days, to be honest. And then I'm pretty flexible with what I eat. I change it up most weeks. On the night, I can eat burgers, and I make sort of chips. I make homemade chips. And then before bed, I'll probably have some protein and some Pop-Tarts. I try to say to people, try and track everything. The things that I wouldn't track is like black coffee, squash, or green veg. In the grand scheme of things, those are gonna be irrelevant to your goals or your progress. Definitely if your goal is just to be fitter, to be healthier, to look good year round, things like green veg are pretty much irrelevant. Salad, I wouldn't track it, but you wanna be tracking, say, if you go to Costa and have a latte or coffee, as in like a frap or something like that, it's got a lot of calories in, you wanna be tracking that. And just your general food. So you wanna be tracking all your food, as in your meats, your carbs, your fats, any snacks you have. That will pretty much cover all your bases. Another thing people will say to me is the whole thing of eating late. People are so scared to eat late. I literally eat before I go to bed. I sleep so much better if I've just eaten. Your body doesn't know what time it is. Your body's not a clock. It doesn't know if it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Your body doesn't digest food on the fact what time it is. It digests it when you've eaten, and you burn calories for the day. You don't burn calories just when you go to sleep, you're still burning calories. So you can eat right before you go to bed. It's your calories for the day that matters. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you can eat all your meals half hour before bed if you wanted to, and you're still gonna lose weight, because it's the calories for the day that count, not before bed. This is a great question, because the supplement industry is massive, obviously. Wrongly or rightly is massive, because there's so many supplements that are pushed and promoted for the wrong reasons. My go-to supplements, and the supplements that I think you should be taking, is not in any particular order, creatine. Creatine is the most scientifically backed and researched product on the market, and if you are serious about any sort of training, weightlifting, any form of training, you should be supplementing creatine. 5 grams a day will cover all your bases. You don't need to front load it like you used to think. Just take 5 grams every day, pre, post, after, before bed, on the morning, it doesn't matter when you take it. Just take 5 grams every day, and then you will be covered. The second would probably be caffeine. Obviously, the pre-workouts are massive in the supplement industry, but what you actually need is the caffeine from that, because that's what's going to enhance your performance. You don't necessarily need to take a pre-workout to do that. Obviously, people react differently with different pre-workouts. There's lots of formulas and lots of different ingredients, and they don't always agree with everybody. But the one thing I would say you do need is the caffeine. Personally, I don't really get on with pre-workouts, because what comes up must come down. So if I take a pre-workout, I always find whatever pre-workout I sort of come to dip during my session, and it sort of affects my session. Whereas if I just have a big cup of coffee, like a double coffee or a double espresso, and some Lucky Charms before I train, bam, great session. And then, to be honest, I would say a good fish oil, vitamin D3, and a multivit. Those are probably the 5 things you should be taking and supplement your diet with. Everything else, if money's an issue, you could be saving your money there. I know most people are probably thinking, but what about whey protein? Whey protein isn't a supplement. In my eyes, whey protein is a superfood. Whey protein is produced the same way as milk and cheese is. So it's just a food, like everything else is a protein. So if anything, it's a food, it's a superfood, and it's just part of your daily diet. So I wouldn't class that as a supplement. On social media, there's lots of talk about refeeds, cheat meals. The difference between a cheat meal, I don't use the term cheat meal, I say off-plan meal. But an off-plan meal and a refeed, a typical refeed is when you give someone lots of carbohydrates. You lower the fats for the day, and you just feed them lots of carbohydrates to refill and replenish and glycogen into the muscles. Because when you diet for a sustained period, your carbs will probably be a little bit lower for that time. You start flattening off a little bit. Your muscles got a little bit flat from glycogen because you're not being filled up with enough carbs. So you try and force feed carbohydrates for the day, and then refill the muscles, and then that should reboost energy and refill the muscles and the way you look. I would say an off-plan meal is when it's just more of a mental break, where they could just go eat something that's off their plan, just have a mental break for the night, eat something that's nice, something they enjoy, and it then puts them in a good place to start the next week. If I had 3 tips for someone to lose weight, you need to start tracking your food, Exercise daily and enjoy it. That is the biggest thing of all of it. You need to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick to it.